Hey, folks, welcome to the Generational Gap. I am Robert, your resident Gen Xer, and right over there is John, our resident Millennial. John, how are you doing this evening? Blah, blah,
A
blah. Got
mixture
it. You're doing
of
fan-fucking-tastic. I
not
get it.
though. I actually
Okay,
have a
I know.
problem. I actually have an issue.
Oh my God. Have you got a
I
zit?
do.
Have you got a zit?
I do. How'd you know? It's
It's
almost like you
just,
can see it.
I can smell it from here.
I've got this big fucking honking ass it right there, and
Was
it's
that
really
really what your
pissed me off.
problem was?
That really was. That was really what I was gonna say.
No, that's
Like
funny.
yeah, I thought you
Okay,
were like
folks,
saw it or something. I don't know.
it's official. No pre-planning on that one.
There was no pre-planning.
But I can tell you this: with a little bitch like
Oh man,
John, it's
that
usually
is
going
a
to be a
problem.
pimple. Hey, I see Saint lurking around out there this evening. I don't see anybody else yet, but they're sure to show up because nobody wants to miss this.
My zit. No one wants to
Oh,
miss my
that's it.
zit. You really
Yeah,
don't want to miss it.
don't want to miss the
It's
zit.
like senior yearbook picture level zit. It is fucking ridiculous. This thing is honking as fuck. It's massive, and I want to kill it, but it would end up killing me if I did. I swear, any day now it's gonna gain sentience.
My favorite zit joke comes from Animal House.
Yeah,
That's my favorite one. John
that was a great
Belushi.
one. Right.
Awesome. Timeless. Here, what's
Guess what I
this?
am
Guess
now?
what I am now?
Yeah,
A
fantastic.
zit. That was seriously funny stuff for its time. I don't care what anybody thinks. I think it's a
It holds
classic.
up, I
It
think.
does hold up pretty
The whole
well.
movie holds up, but
It
that joke
does.
does hold up
It
still.
does hold up
Yeah.
pretty well. I think the classics are oft overlooked. There's some really good movies from back in the day. I was just the other day I was watching Cannonball Run 2. Of course, because I'm a big fan of Cannonball, their first Cannonball, and they had. I mean, it's just got everybody in it, right,
Mm.
of the time, right. So
Right, right,
I'm
right.
just sitting here watching, and I'm like, it's a who's who of actors from back in the day. And just so many of them. Everybody from Sammy Davis Jr. to, of course, Burt Reynolds, Dom DeLuise, Frank Sinatra's in it. Just all sorts of just tons of people. But people overlook them because I don't know. While I see things from the '80s making their heyday, because as things often do, in 20 years something's going to be whatever you're wearing is going to be a fad, right? There's going to be a throwback to
Yeah.
it. But I see that happen with a lot of stuff, '80s, '90s, but not so much from movies. I don't know. I don't feel like I see a lot of nostalgia for the older stuff anymore, but maybe that's just because I'm hanging around young people.
Yeah, that's probably
Yeah.
what it is. Because I mean,
But
I
that should
grew up
tell
on a
you
lot of
something.
classic movies.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, but how many people do you know that you interact with watch
Um,
many of the older movies?
a
Like, see,
couple of
it
people, but
like
I've also introduced a lot of people to those movies as well.
um it's like I think there are movies that should be watched. No matter how much cheese that has been attributed to them all these years later, there's
Sure.
a reason, right? I mean, it's imperative that you watch The Big Lebowski. If you
Yeah.
haven't seen The Big Lebowski, if you haven't seen This Is Spinal Tap, if
Oh,
you
fuck
if
yeah.
if you I mean, come on, right? If you haven't watched movies like this, and if there's other classics, timeless thing,
There's
The
tons.
Karate
Yeah.
Kid. If you haven't watched The Karate Kid
The original Karate Kid.
The original Karate Kid and Red Dawn, the original Red Dawn, if you haven't
Yeah,
seen
that was a really
those,
good one.
you're a fool. I mean, you want to get a picture of what was going through people's minds during the Cold War. I thought Red Dawn was awesome because I'm like, man, everybody wanted to be a fucking Wolverine at one time. It was like, yeah, Wolverines, shut down those fucking commie bastards. The
Fucking
ones that
dirty
are
cocksucking Russians.
currently coming to get us. They're currently coming to get us, John. I don't know if you know it or not. And they've decided that they're going to infiltrate us through Facebook and other social media. If
By
they
buying
can
a couple
if
of
they can
ads.
sink their teeth in, if they can get
Yeah.
a strong enough hold on this country through social media, they will begin to post nudies on Instagram.
Oh shit. Well, hmm.
It's all over after that. It's all over. Once the Russian nudies hit, you know,
That's it. We're all done for.
right.
It's communism forever after
There's
that.
there's nothing better than communist porn. I'm just saying, you know, because with communist porn, it doesn't matter if she wants to be there or not. She's there, right?
Oh yeah,
I mean, she's doing it for her country. She's doing it, you know, she's
that's
doing it for
right.
her
For the
family,
motherland,
for
yeah,
the motherland.
yeah.
So uh, there are a few things that I wanted to ask you about tonight. That we touched on earlier. We touched on these like the propaganda wars that are going on. You and I have talked
So,
about it a little bit. Oh, please go ahead.
oh no, I was just gonna ask you how many Valium you took before coming on here.
How many Valium?
Yeah.
I'm not sleeping much lately. I'm not sleeping
Oh
a lot,
damn.
so I'm
You should.
really kind of low key right now. I've had a little bit. Hi, Eliza.
Hey,
I've
Eliza.
I've medicated a little bit, so I'm just kind of really chill right now. But I haven't been sleeping a lot. My sleeping is not
Because you
great
sound like you're
lately.
trying to do my NPR impression.
No, no, not at
It's
all. Not
like,
at all. It's my
like, hey
energy.
guys,
My energy meter is
we're
wavering.
just
It's doing the it's doing a real up and down kind of thing. So. But anyway, so all this conspiracy theory stuff that's going on about George Floyd and who's behind the riots and
hmm
who's pulling strings and who's delivering pallets of bricks and whether or not George Floyd was actually killed. And I mean, there is a very
yeah, of
deep river of conspiracy theories floating
course.
around about this. I mean, even my wife, she points to a picture and she's like, why am I seeing two difference in these two pictures? We talked about the widow's peak on
Right.
Chauvin's head. Um, it's weird things like that, but there's lots of it out there, and of course there's lots of articles debunking it. I mean, they've talked
hmm
about how, I mean, some places pull fact check and all of that have gone and done geolocation of job sites, this, that, and the other, or looking back at footage from then there's, fake stuff being posted. Like some of these things that you see, some of the images from riots and some of the videos that are being posted are old videos from
Hey, Silly Blue.
previous riots.
What up, bro?
So the question begins to be, so what would be the point to produce like someone throwing the conspiracy theories out in the first place? Um,
What would be the point?
yeah, I mean, what is
Um, well, I mean, one is sincerity, right? People actually believe. They're saying they see some kind of inconsistency with the story. Perhaps they already believe other conspiracy theories, and so it's not much of a stretch to bring what they already think into whatever's happening, whatever the new shit's happening.
now, are those the
I don't
people?
think it's.
Will those people will wake up to it if it's debunked for them, though? Is that correct? You would think.
It depends on the person, obviously.
Right.
Some people won't believe anything other than what they want to believe.
Right.
So,
All right. So who else? Who else's purposes would it serve? If there was purpose behind it.
um, I mean, obviously, like stopping any kind of or like say okay, like there's always tons of different conspiracy theories about what's like centered around one thing.
Right.
So a lot of people, especially in the conspiracy theory like communities, will say, all these other ones that aren't the one that I believe are just put out there by the CIA or the Illuminati or what have you, to kind of cover up the actual truth. So, like, you just flood the market with conspiracy theory that's all bunk, and it hides the one that's actually real.
Okay. So I guess I guess what puzzles me about it is I'm trying to think of the best way to put it is you know is like with this one, it happened almost immediately. Like there almost lending to a deliberateness about it. Like I really feel like as the conspiracy theories were popping up just almost in, I don't know, what seemed like instantaneously about George Floyd.
Oh
And
yeah.
whereas, okay, I mean, yes, I'm sure there were conspiracy theories pop up about things very quickly, but this seemed almost timed, almost executed in how quickly it happened and how diverse it's been. I mean, do you
Mhm.
agree with that in any way, or do you think this is
I
just the
haven't
natural progression we're going to see now?
I haven't really seen any real conspiracy theories about George Floyd, other than he he didn't die from the neck. He died from overdosing or some other kind of shit like that.
Right,
Um, I actually just heard today, actually for the first time, about that apparently he's got like a prior record with putting a gun to a pregnant woman's belly. I don't know how true that is. I didn't look it up for myself,
right,
but that he wasn't like some kind of gentle giant, good
right.
guy. Which of course now our YouTube channel is going to be at risk because I said that. But yeah,
Well, there are lots of things
hey,
floating
Michael
around.
Vega's in the house. What's up?
Good to see you, Mr.
What up,
Vega.
bro?
There's lots of things floating around on the internet. They're question lists that are floating around. Well, if this and this, why was this happening, and why did this happen? So it's like, why was the car that was out in front of the store from one camera angle not the same car that was out in front of the same
Right.
store?
And then
At,
there's all the moving him around from
right,
one side of the street to another to right in front of the camera of the store and all this kind of shit.
right.
And David Chauvin like uh posing for the camera or whatever. I don't know how true that kind of stuff is. But
it's one of those things where I mean, some of it just seems really unbelievable that someone would be so stupid in putting footage together that was doctored footage, because a lot of the allegations point to things that would have had to been doctored. But there's other things like saying Chauvin was a crisis actor that's been used in other things, and he got an image in Sandy Hook, the police officer standing in the background at Sandy Hook. He's supposedly one of those guys, and a couple of
that's
other
tough
places,
to
right?
that would be tough, very
Right.
tough to prove, even if
Sure.
he looks
Um,
similar.
there's
I mean,
there's
cops
there's
do kind of look the same, not to be racist, but cops do kind of all look the same.
Sure. But what backs that up is his neighbors never knew he was a cop, apparently. Because they had never seen him in police uniform, never seen a police cruiser.
Mm.
This is supposedly coming from neighbors of his. Uh, so, it's like, okay, why, what is this going to prolong? Is this something that would be released by the left to fuel and stoke the rioters, the
I
protesters, to
mean,
keep that fire elevated? Is that
oh wait,
possible?
wait, wait. What do you mean?
Like
Like the act, like staging the killing of him, or
no,
just the
the
conspiracy theories
conspiracy
around it?
theories.
Okay.
Right? They know
Um.
it really happened, but if you can create enough conspiracy theories and enough doubt, then you not only impact the case, but you also impact the level of rioting and protesting.
Right. Yeah. I mean, because you have to be very careful about what you say in public about that. You pretty much have to walk the line and say, oh yeah, it's absolutely terrible. All cops are bastards. That whole shit. Otherwise, you're this horrible racist that needs to be ostracized from society.
Right.
Um, but I don't think that like we have some kind of like leftist conspiracy theory to put out conspiracy theories. I think that they're just extremely opportunistic and are using this to do what they've been talking about for years. And that's what I think most of the time when it comes to conspiracy theory is that it's not people staging things; it's people using the things that happen to opportunistically to get what they want done accomplished. And so, it's like, oh, tragedy, excellent. We can use this. Takes them like, a couple hours to put something together and then boom, it rolls out. And that's why it seems like it's so fast. Just because they've already got the plan in place in case something does happen that they can use.
Right.
I think that's much more likely. The thing with most conspiracy theories is if you apply Occam's razor, there's always, almost always, I shouldn't say always, there's almost always a simpler explanation.
Right. Um, Michael Vega points something out, which we're going to talk about we're going to talk about in a bit, in just a couple of minutes. That I was going to point out as this dialogue continued. But he says, "Why was this the killing that turned people over to the abolish the police state,
No,
abolish
it's
the police
police.
side?"
Right.
But give us a moment. That's coming. We're circling into that. Sully says, I think this was just a shitty situation caught on tape. I think people look for something when there's nothing there sometimes. Someone used it as the point to fund their riot
The
wave
riot
across the
wave.
country, but I do think this was a real shit situation. And
Yeah,
I
of
agree.
course it was.
I agree. I just, you know, I guess it's hard to look at like these conspiracy theory questions about this, about the riots, about everything, and not begin to wonder if there's a conspiracy behind the information of, the propaganda of, because these conspiracy theories and the discussions about them, I mean, going all the way to into the riots and how the riots are being funded, coordinated, et cetera, by other groups, even all the way up to people, trying to attach it to George Soros as being the ultimate ringleader behind all of this.
We'll
Yeah.
see. Even with so there's a lot of truth to the Soros stuff. I don't know about in this particular case, but I mean, following the money on that guy is fucking pretty ridiculous. He funds all kinds of shit. Um, not to, I mean, for the first main thing is the all the caravans of migrant people. Remember when that was a thing, and we never
Well, all
heard
those
about
people
that?
that were coming north.
Yeah, and then we
Yeah.
never heard about them again.
Right.
Um,
Well, we built a wall.
yeah, it's fine. But yeah, he was huge in that. He's funded a lot of like the not the Antifa stuff necessarily, but like the Black Bloc, all their like the lefty protesters or lefty protests that the Antifa will show up at. He's funded a lot of those. There's a lot of stuff that he's done.
But would I be correct in saying he keeps his money trail as clean as Trump keeps his?
No.
Like he's only giving to above board groups, or is he
Right,
funding?
yeah,
He's not
yeah.
funding known terrorist groups or groups that may fall into that category at some point, like
Right.
Antifa,
Not that
right?
we know of, no. But
He's
yeah, I mean,
not openly
he
funding.
funds. Yeah, he does fund like above board stuff that which they then fund
Does he have any ties?
bullshit.
Does he fund like any groups like the Ku Klux Klan?
No,
Okay, but what
he's a
about?
Jew.
Okay,
Like, no, he's not going to do that.
well, you never. Hey, I'm
Dude, I don't know
just.
if you know Ku Klux Klan. Not big fans
I
of
don't know
Jews.
what I
Like,
don't. How do I know by his name that he's a Jew? Soros makes me think Greek before anything else.
I believe he is. Yeah, I
No,
believe he is
so
Greek.
yeah. Oh, is he? He's a
I
Greek
believe so.
Orthodox.
I, well, no, Orthodox would be it's a form of Catholicism.
I was being silly.
Yeah.
But
Here, let me
anyway,
see.
yeah, he
I'm
sounds
pretty
Greek.
damn
So
sure.
Jewish wasn't the first thing that popped into my head.
Look at that. When you Google George Soros, it says George Soros Antifa. That's funny. Born Schwarzguggery. Yeah.
Okay,
He's
see that
Hungarian
that would help.
American. Yeah.
That would help.
So he actually changed his name, I suppose.
See, there you go.
Uh, yeah, he's a Hungarian, apparently. He had a net worth of $8 billion, having donated more than $32 billion to his philanthropic agency, the Open Society Foundations.
I wonder who he was tied to before he changed his name. It would be interesting to see who he was tied to over there. So was he tied in with any not so government friendly groups over there? Because if he was Hungarian, you never know. He might have had close ties to any number of radical groups, correct?
Yeah. I mean,
I mean, that makes good sense to change your name, but he got away from anything that sounds Jewish. I'm just saying, you know. But
yeah.
anyway, so yeah, I don't know. So but now this, the effect it's having, and this is one of those things, right? So when I see on the news and any discussion about what Michael Vega pointed out, where people are calling for the reduction, if not full-scale abolishment of police forces in places. Minneapolis, I watched, it was a live news broadcast just a little bit ago, and but they pulled up a clip of the mayor speaking with protesters at the protest, and the main speaker for the protest was saying, we want the police gone. We want
Mhm.
them removed because we don't want people with guns running around snatching us off the street, basically.
Right.
And he
That's the
had to tell
funniest part.
her,
It's like,
I'm not going to abolish the police force. But this is an agenda that's being talked about from these protests as one of
which is
as a
hilarious
new
to me.
goalpost.
Yeah,
Um,
it's fucking hilarious to me because these are the people that want to implement socialism in this country. Well, how do you enforce socialism on a population?
Are not the riots a perfect example to use when someone says we want the police gone? That you just got a taste of what it's like when the police don't interfere. How was that
Right.
for you? How
Pretty
was
good. They
that?
got free TVs and
Right?
Xboxes and I don't know what the fuck what are the kids playing with these days?
Ve-
Extra sketches and
Right.
robots.
And
Yeah.
Vegas says the mayor got clowned hard. Yeah, and I mean he
Oh yeah.
was he was visibly upset, and he she was like, "Fuck you, all that matters," But it's like, ah, you can't. I don't know, John. Here comes this fine line. It's like, you're happy with smaller police forces, but now part of what they want money from this to do is to fund
Mhm.
social programs in their city, in their counties. They want
Yeah.
to direct that money from police to programs that help them that have been there.
Yeah.
They want more funding for these social programs, and it's
Yep.
like, okay, so you want more of the free handout with no
Yes.
with
No
no
accountability.
repercussion, no
Sounds
accountability, no
like sounds
response.
like leftist to me.
Okay, so
Sounds like fucking leftist 101 right there, man. Give me everything and you don't expect anything from me. How dare you? Yeah.
um so where do I can see you being on, like, a very interesting position on this, supporting.
It's not difficult. I don't know. I mean, so for someone who isn't me, it might be more difficult to figure out what I would say, but I mean, it took me about half a second to come up with the answer 'cause it's very, very easy.
Which is
Well, it's their city. They can do what they want. They want to defund the police and not have any police there. That's fine. That's within their right to do.
okay. So
If they want
that's if
to
it's a
put that
majority
money,
of the city, right? The population of the city wants that.
no, I
I
mean if
mean,
the mayor wants to do that, but
oh,
I don't
no.
know.
Well,
I
the
don't know if the
mayor
mayor
is
has
saying
that
no,
power.
right?
I don't know if the mayor has that power, but whoever would have that power would do it. Then that's on them, and it's up to the population therein to hold that person accountable, whether it was a good idea or a bad idea. It's up to them to hold that person accountable.
So that
There's nothing
person
to do with me.
that person is held accountable if he gave the people what they wanted. That person still has to be held accountable, whoever it is,
Yeah, if they don't
even
if
if
they
it
if
even it,
90% of them want it to happen, but the mayor said no, well, we have an election coming up,
well, there's that. Okay, I got you. So let their votes
and
count, right?
right.
Um, yeah, I'm just gonna put it out there. If I were him, I'd be like, vote my ass out. I don't want
I'd be like, I'm
vote who
stepping
you
down.
want.
Fuck this
Vote
bullshit.
who you want in. You don't want
Yeah.
police. You don't want anybody protecting you, because I can promise you more cops are protecting you than are killing you,
Yeah.
even there. So, okay, I'm out. Peace out. Put yourself a mayor
Yeah.
in who'll give you what you want. Um,
Yeah.
but you're in support of smaller police presence. Am I correct?
Um, Smaller is kind of a different word because it depends
Sure.
obviously on
And I used
where
it
you are.
intentionally,
Yeah, I mean, a city is going to need a bigger police force
of
than,
course.
Eustis, Florida,
The
right?
more
I
people
mean,
there are, the more people you need to control the masses.
right. So it's not about a smaller police force. It's about, I mean, proportional police force, sure. But it's more about demilitarizing. the police. I mean, they received something like throughout the country, it was like something like $5.1 billion worth of military surplus.
Okay, so let me ask you about that real quick to go
Yeah,
off. So that now, when you say military funding, or
military like gear
gear and
mostly.
stuff, right?
Yeah, they get whatever kind of body armor, armor personnel carriers,
But
just
you would agree that
drones,
there are
not drones, but like not flying drones, but like the little robot things
but you would
going
agree that
around.
there are situations that go on within that are within the realm and scope and jurisdiction of police forces that require some of these tools of the trade, as it were. Am I correct?
Well, I
And
mean, they don't require it. It's just that it does make it a lot easier to accomplish that job. However, it also makes them a lot more powerful than they need to be.
okay, I can understand
That's
that.
the point, right? I mean, yes, I understand like officer safety, but again, you chose this line of work.
Sure.
You know what I
I,
mean? You weren't forced into it. And I would much rather, someone remain barricaded inside a house for 36 hours instead of the 10 that it might take to get a, robot down there or something to bust down whatever barricade. Uh, than, having them be able to act like an occupying force. Because that's what they are at this point.
okay,
The police
so
are just an occupying force.
let me ask you this,
Hmm.
um, to see if this helps clarify. Um, as a private citizen yourself,
Hmm.
you feel you should have equal access to the same weapons that are used to a certain extent. Is that correct? By military,
Yeah.
police, etc.
The only
Correct?
exception I would really make is nuclear weapons, which of course
Sure.
it would be very difficult to get your hands
Right.
on that otherwise, but still I
Okay.
can concede that one point. I'm not mad that that's illegal for a private
Okay.
citizen
No,
to.
no, no. And I got you there. The what I wanted to illustrate is that if we presently looked at gun law in that way, and you were able to do that, then would it be more acceptable that the police are outfitted that way?
Can you say that again?
Would it be more acceptable for the police to be outfitted that way if you were free to outfit yourself that
Oh,
way as
sure. Yeah,
well?
if I had the
It would
same
be an equal
access to
balance.
right, exactly.
But you don't think the military itself is them having that equipment is fine because that makes us a strong and powerful military, but having it in the hands of uh, local police forces is
Right,
too
because
much power in the hands of
of your
smaller.
of your neighbors, of the people who are going around your community
Gotcha.
all day and all night. The military isn't. I mean, if they were, then they would be more like a law enforcement agency than the military, and it would be the same issue.
Okay, so then if those cuts are made, if we begin to see those kind of cuts, we're also going to see manpower cuts. Um, Are you comfortable with that money going to social programs in the community, knowing that it's going to be your community tax dollars that you pay that are going to help fund that we're normally paying for police force?
All right, hang on. Can you say that again? Because I was reading Silly Blues chat
Oh,
while
sorry.
you were
What
saying
do
that.
you have to say? He said, "Well, Pulse nightclub without the proper gear, they'd be much more at risk of saving innocent lives than they were able to barge in and take out the threat. You can buy vests and Kevlar helmets as well as 90% of the weapons cops get. Granted, some take a while to get a tax stamp or permit for, at least here in Florida. So,
Well, I
most of
mean, yeah, I mean, so with the first part, right, about Pulse nightclub, I need a little bit of clarification. You said they'd be much more at risk of saving innocent lives than they were able to barge in and take out the threat. I think what he's saying is that they'd be more at risk while trying to save lives than they would be if they were able to just barge in and take out the threat.
right
I think that's what he's trying to say.
with the enhanced gear with the
Right. And
right
no, but like I said, it does make the job easier,
right.
but it doesn't make, I don't know, it doesn't make us safer in general, right? So there are times when that is appropriate, that helps them out a lot. But
But
it's much more rare. than it is when they normally put it on. That's why they do like the no knock warrants. They dress up in full fucking gear, send in like the whole SWAT team, shoot
Sure,
your dog, and
sure.
then, maybe your mother and your grandmother too, who knows. And then, finally they might find you.
But
Oh yeah, and then now it's the wrong house.
sure.
And they just busted in. So no, fuck that shit.
Well, hold
Right? That
on though.
happens far more often than a Pulse nightclub shooting.
Well, hold
That
on
that
though.
kind of thing happens way more often.
It's the idea, I think, that the unknown factor determines that all police should be protected to a certain
Yeah,
minimum standard, right? So, because you never know when a normal house call is going to turn into a shooting match or a hostage
of
situation. They've
course,
seen
of
it happen
course.
time and time again throughout,
Yeah, of
you know.
course.
So you don't know. So that means, okay, well, if every cop is walking around at tier gear 11 as opposed to tier gear 3 and, hope he has time to call in some tier gear 11 guys, the option
No,
is to
I,
go
I
for the
get the argument.
uniformity of the gear that is overpowering to the shit that's available to people out there.
Yeah, and then oops, it's the wrong house. You just killed three people and a dog
Yeah,
for
and
nothing
and is that the
because you're
norm?
trigger happy. Yeah, that no, it's not the absolute norm, but it happens far too often, and
Sure,
it's because of that overconfidence
but
of having that
you
gear.
know what the argument against your gun laws will be, or against your gun rights will be. As
What?
often as that happens, school shootings were happening more often.
No, they weren't.
That's
That's
the
absolute
argument that'll be
horseshit.
made because that's the numbers that are put
Okay, so
out
you just
there.
show them the stats. I mean, you just show them what the real numbers are. I don't think that's a number that's actually being put out there.
But you see,
Exactly what
that
Michael
will be
Vega
the,
says there.
you
How about
see,
everyone just say strapped gear 11? Exactly.
right. I mean, and that's understandable, but not everybody can afford tier gear
No, of
11,
course.
right?
Of course, yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's this idea that you want police to go away, and or not you, but I mean that these people want police to go away in
Yeah.
to a greater extent. And it's like, okay, so a opportunists are going to see that as an open door to commit more crime. It is what it is.
Oh, well,
Those
yeah.
that commit crime are going to take that opportunity to commit more crime. So there's that. But then the question is, okay, so who are you going to call? What are you going to do when you have no idea who just shot at your house? When you have no idea who just ran by in a full mask and stole your purse? Or someone just busted into your house and took a bunch of shit before you could even respond? Who
Yeah.
are you going to call? Your brother? He's going to come and take care of that. He's got a police file on
Maybe.
known criminals in the neighborhood. Fuck
I
that.
mean, again, I'm not
No, no,
advocating
no.
for
I
abolishing the
but I don't.
police.
I'm
It's
trying to
just,
wrap my head around this mindset that anybody thinks the world would be okay. That your
oh,
local
well, yeah.
community would be okay without the fucking police. I can't wrap my head around it. And I need someone to give me a legitimate argument against getting rid of the police that makes sense. And it can't be that argument, well, a strapped society is a polite society, because that only goes so far. Not everybody wants to carry a gun. Not
I mean,
everybody's
not
built
everybody
that
wants to
way.
wear clothes, but you do that in
Not
public,
everybody
right?
does, John.
In
There are
public, you
some
do.
people that live in places where they don't have to worry
Well,
about
there you go.
it,
Live in a live in a place where guns aren't allowed, and then there won't be any guns around
Well,
you.
that's not, no. What I'm saying is, even if guns
What?
are wide open, there are people that are going to choose not to carry guns, that don't want to use a gun.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
Then you better travel with somebody who does, because I
Uh,
mean, I'm sorry,
this
like
is,
it's just like now you're just as defenseless now as you would be then.
he says, what if people try to kill people? You mean like they already do? Kill them yourself.
Right.
Okay, but that leads
Well,
to
hang
the
on,
question.
because Sully was saying most SWAT team members are prior service military. I will still
Right.
say, or I still say the problem is lawmakers, not the police. Yeah,
I
the
agree.
police are a tool used by the lawmakers. So
And
yeah,
to save
and that's what I was
face,
talking about was the lawmakers, the law that police are allowed to receive military surplus weapons. I mean that's what I have a problem with is that law. I'm not mad at them for using the cool tech shit that they get, passed down, hand me down to them. I mean, I would use it in their position. It's a law that I have a problem with. Anyway,
That's
go ahead.
he says. He says, "Hey, if they want less police force, fine. But damn well bet I'll be carrying everywhere, and I'll have my AR in my truck with me. I don't want to use it, but I'll be damned." Uh, Join the
Yeah,
abolish train, John. That's their problem.
I'm
Rubber
pretty
ain't
damn close
beholden
to
to
that.
them. Well, it's.
I'm
I
not
mean,
I'm not on that train
I
yet.
mean, I
I'm like I got his foot on the little step board thing, little stair.
look.
I'm not on the
I
train.
just I don't want to have uh, the type of community where I gotta walk around strapped.
You already have that community. You just don't do it and get lucky
No,
every
I
time.
mean, like even on my, I'm talking about my close community here on my street and that kind of thing. I mean, it's very, for the most part, it's always been very, very tame. But no, it's in society and everything. So don't wear. It's not masks that we need to wear. It's guns that we need to wear, so that somebody knows I'm packing, so they know that I'm not an easy target. you know,
Mm-hmm.
it's like okay, now I've got to carry a
Yeah.
weapon, so I
You
don't
want to
come.
fuck with me? You better come correct, because if you don't kill me right away, that's your ass.
Is that the kind of society I want to live in? Not necessarily, because I know what the transition to that is going to be like. And that's going to be a wild that literally will be Wild West shit going on in the fucking streets
Well, like
anywhere
I've
they get
explained to
rid
you
of the
before, the
cops.
whole Wild West, the Western movies are not, what it actually was. Like the whole gonna get meet at the in the middle of the street at at noon or whatever, and have a gunslinging battle or some shit. That's not how that worked. Generally speaking, it was actually very peaceful most
I
of the
under
time.
I understand. That's why I emphasize that Wild West shit because it wasn't the Wild West. It was just the Old West. That was what it was in the old days. The movies make it the Wild West, so
Yeah.
it's an
Well, it
easy
was wild
connotation.
as fuck.
But
I
it was
mean,
glamorized in the movies. I get that.
yeah,
But
yeah.
what
It
I'm
was.
talking about is these kids nowadays will try and reproduce the shit they saw in John Wick trying to be cool and shit with their gack. I mean, so it's like you'll just have crazy all sorts of offhand shit going on and like limited or no police protection going out there stopping it so stray bullets aren't flying everywhere. And you're just hoping that the answer is that other people start throwing bullets without regard for life because
Hmm.
at least the police are expected to be concerned about, you know, friendly fire and shit like that, collateral damage
Hmm.
versus you and me on the street. Are you going to care about collateral damage if you start popping off trying to take out somebody who aggressed on you? I mean,
No, I mean, not
violate
if my
my
life is in danger.
right.
Fuck
You're
that. My
not going to
life is
care
more
how many
important.
fucking kids you kill in the background, right?
Well, that's not true at all. No.
But are you thinking about that? I mean,
I mean, yeah,
we'll have
because
people fucking dueling in the middle of malls, dude. I mean, it'll be fun, sure,
the
but
the
still.
second the second or third rule of shooting a firearm, something like that. The first one's obviously safety and pointing the muzzle away from people, but one of the biggest rules is when you line up the sight to a target is you always look not at the target, or you look at the target and what's beyond it. So as long as you've practiced that way, you're not going to hit a kid, because you're not just looking at the person in front of you, you're looking beyond them as well.
Sure.
So if something
I
does go stray, you know what's over there.
thanks for the shooting education,
Well,
John. But
I
the
mean, I'm just
point
telling you that
is,
that's
we're
what you
talking
do.
about the
Like,
heat of the moment.
yeah,
Everybody's concerned about what hitting their
it's a
target
snap
in the heat of a
decision.
moment, but that's not to say shit goes crazy sometimes. You may suck at that first shot, but you get it lined up on that second shot. you know, I'm just saying shit happens. The point
Oh, hey,
is,
Sully's making a good point here. YouTube fellow chatters, this is it. When we are running our IT and we are running a test of the thumbs up button, click it so we can run our test, please. Yeah, guys,
I
help
like
him
that
out with that.
test. That IT
Yeah,
test
help
is
him out
good.
with that, because
There's a hand with a thumbs up. Try it. It should work.
yeah, it looks
If
like
it
this.
doesn't work for you, let us know and we'll check into it. But one click should do it. But yeah, I don't
Oh,
know.
fifth weapon rule. That's what it was.
Gotcha.
Henry.
Know
Silly.
your
Sorry.
target, one lies beyond. Um,
Yeah.
so I guess it's this, John. The part about the police that I like is that they instill order by their presence. That is one of the jobs that the functions of the police, is to instill order, and ultimately by presence, not by action.
Yeah.
And that's what they should be, because you want order. I don't care if people are walking around strapped legally, fine, but you need order the larger your population gets. I mean, think about it, John. There's too many fucking wild cards in this crazy, crazy fucking country of ours. I mean, you might have to agree with me that there's a lot of mentally unbalanced people in this country right
Okay.
now.
Yeah, but you're thinking about it as the country as a whole. You are not everywhere in the country. Doesn't matter if there's some whack job in Arizona. You're in Florida.
But everything has major social media ripples now. So what pops off in one place is going to pop off identically. When it clones, it's going to clone at the point it is, not at the point it started at. The riots are a good example. A lot of these places popped off early with Minneapolis and didn't go full on riot till after rioting started in Minneapolis. And then
Mm-hmm.
everything that joined on after that, it was an expectation that it was going to be a riot over a protest. So,
Sure.
this is how these
But that
things
has nothing to do
happen.
with
There's going to
someone. No,
be,
you brought up specifically like mentally unbalanced
sure,
people or mentally
sure.
whatever
Well, no, I'm talking
people.
about the mental health of the country as a whole, with all the division and all of the problems that are going on and everybody at each other's throats. There's an instability here that, you know, putting guns in everybody's hands is kind of a scary thought. I get the polite society mindset, but this is a time for opportunists. This is a
Yeah,
time
right
for
now it is.
making
Yeah.
statement. This is a time for getting your way. And if a knee-jerk reaction is to defund or abolish any police forces in this country, that kind of thing, the reaction to that will have ripple effects. The changes that are instituted because of it are going to have major ripple effects. It's all kind of shit that I don't want to see popping off. I just want us to all fucking calm down and have some order again, is all I'm asking. And let's go back to sitting at the table and discussing things, as opposed to everybody just sitting around yelling at each other and burning their shit down and hating on each other. This is all
Yeah.
about hate. There's too much hatred being generated in all of this, whether it be for country, whether it be against race, whether it be against religion. Everybody's getting their voice heard in this. So it's like okay,
So I was laughing at Henry's chat there at the bottom. It's all about how you raise your guns. Mine behave really good. They've never shot anyone.
that you know of, but what are they
Right. What
doing
do
on
they do when
those
they leave the
nights,
house, though?
right?
Like,
They're sneaking out. Have you made sure there's no trellises down from their bedrooms? I'm just
right.
saying. Um,
Oh man, yeah, you can't control what they
it's
do when they leave
almost
the
as
house,
bad as who might be sneaking in to see them. Mm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
got
Who's in
some
your
other
house?
guns. Yeah,
So yeah, no, I don't know, John. It's like all of this. So this is an excellent example to me of where social media, mainstream media, like almost every form of media, is all of a sudden every source is trying to brainwash you in one way or another.
yeah, it's
Like,
propaganda. I mean, that's all news is. It's just propaganda for whatever side you want it to be for.
and I think this is it's very confusing to people, and I think that nobody's making clear decisions right now. I don't think anybody's making clear decisions.
Yeah, it's all knee jerk reaction and then knee jerk reaction to the reaction.
Right? I
Yeah,
mean, I think that's happening all the way to the top in the federal government. I think it's happening all the way to the top of state governments. I don't know. Why we're not talking about coronavirus anymore right now. So my guess is that's over. So we should just go ahead and end the lockdowns, right? I mean, just
Well, they're already over, aren't they? I
are
mean,
they? Well, for us, we're moving into what?
well,
We
no,
just
no. I mean, like, if you're allowed to protest and riot in the streets and shit, pretty much lockdown's over. I mean, what are you gonna do? Like, you still got to stay
you
home
could arrest everybody.
unless you want to riot and protest. Then you can go outside. That's fine. It's like it's like Catholics in Lent, where they're like, hey, you can't eat meat on Fridays unless you want to. Just do whatever you want. Like that's pretty much how that works.
There's a fish option. There is a fish option. I'm
Yeah,
just saying.
we always got cheese pizza on Friday. That was nice.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's what we always did for
Lucky you.
during Lent. Yeah,
Yeah, lucky you. Nice.
yeah,
Pizza. You kids and your fancy pizza. Uh,
yeah.
he says he locks them up like he does his children.
Let
He
me tell
said,
you a story about that, Henry. I had a girlfriend once, who I kept sneaking into her room at night, and her dad found out about it. Luckily, while I wasn't there, so I didn't get the muzzle treatment. Um, but what he ended up doing was putting like this little lock on her window, so the window couldn't open, and then she broke it off, and I was able to get in anyway. Uh, so yeah, I mean, locking him up doesn't always work.
um, I saw a commercial not too long ago that kind of falls into that vein that I thought was kind of fun. And it was a great promotion for their product. But anyway, kids come sneaking in through the window of his girlfriend's house. Um, and suddenly her bedroom door opens and it's dad coming in and holds up his phone to the kid and says, "Are you blah, 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 blah that just joined my network?"
Oh, what an idiot!
And the kid's like,
No.
starts backing towards the fucking window and it's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, look at that. That's the new tagger right there. That's the way you
Yeah,
get them.
that's
Hey,
dumb as
somebody
fuck.
just signed on to my network. Oh,
Hmm.
these kids, they think they're sneaky, but the
Yeah.
technology catches up.
That's funny.
Um, so, so final question I'll ask you, and then we'll get the hell out of here. And I really want to hear what you have to say. So, do you think anybody is behind any part of this, whether it be the the George Floyd incident, whether it be the propaganda surrounding that, or whether or not you think somebody actually is behind the riots and organizing these? Where do you lie on your belief of what is actually happening in this?
I think it's a combination of a number of things. Obviously, the media is a big one. Um, I think obviously people being cooped up for the past, 2 months, 3 months, depending on where you are.
Mhm.
Um, people are sick of being just sitting around at home. Um, so there's that, and then there's obviously the legitimate, you know, uh, emotion of like being just sick of all the negative shit in the news, especially, but just negative shit happening, especially when it comes to police brutality. I mean, most of the, I don't know if I should say most. Yeah, most. I would say most of the cases that are brought into the news of white cop beats black man unarmed or kills unarmed black man. Most of those are bunk. Most of them, it's there's a legitimate reason why he was killed. Most of the time, it wasn't because he was unarmed. Most of the time he was not unarmed. Most of the time, it was so there was something going on with it. This one was obviously clear. This one there was no disputing it. Um, so I think that kind of gave that springboard into doing what they've wanted to do for a very long time, and just kind of push further the get rid of the police narrative, or the police are bad in general narrative,
Right.
because they actually found one where it's a legitimate case of police brutality and completely inexcusable behavior, and so now they have the moral high ground. until, of course, they start burning down businesses. But they don't see it that way, right? They see themselves maintaining the moral high ground, even doing that.
All right. Well, now you spawned two follow-up questions for me. So, do you think, in as far as the protests are concerned, they've reached a point where, okay, point taken, let's stop having protests so we can sit down and talk?
I don't think you're going to see that. I think it's going to.
Well, that's not what I'm
I think
asking.
it's.
Do you think do you would you is that the point you're at with these, or are you still comfortable with watching them go on? I guess is what I'm asking. Do you want to see
I
them
mean,
end?
oh yeah, of course I want to see them end. Yeah, of course. I
And
mean, it's been going
the
on for
riots
what, 2 weeks
aside,
now?
they
Oh,
that
protests? I don't care if you want to protest. Be out there and protest. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. Why would I have? Yeah,
okay.
I
So
guess I'm not sure what you're asking. If I'm
if the
not,
riots weren't going on, but since they are precursors to rioting happening in the cities, it's a better idea that they accept that they've made their point and stop organizing the protests that are sparking riots. Is that more to the point of how you feel about it?
um, I don't know. I mean, I would prefer to sit down and talk with people,
Right.
but no, I mean they have every right to protest. It's when it turns into a riot, obviously that's when it becomes a problem. And I think that more people need to be against the riots than are. Like there's way too many people excusing the riots, which of course allows them to continue. Justified, they're justified
Right.
by the right people. But it depends on who's justifying them. But the right people are justifying it, therefore they can continue. And I mean, the police are pretty powerless to stop it. They can minimize some of the damage, but I mean, there's not enough of them to stop it. That's why they talk about having to bring the National Guard in. You know,
Yeah.
and yeah, I agree with Henry there. I don't want the riots to stop until they burn down the IRS headquarters or the ATF.
Or
Yeah, I know. I've got a meme somewhere. I can't remember if it's on my phone or if heck the feds. Yeah, I don't can't remember if it's on my phone or my meme stash on my computer. But it's like the political compass test,
right.
and it was like the other three saying like ridiculous shit, and then like the bottom right libertarian being like, why are the government buildings still standing? Like that. And I was like, yeah, exactly. Like your problems with the government, problems not with Target. Go burn down. No, no, don't do this. But if you wanted to actually make the point,
Well, Target's a big bad
they're
corporate entity, so loot the shit out of them.
they didn't
You know,
kill George Floyd.
but they're a big bad
Like,
corporate entity
well, yeah,
in a socio-economically oppressed area.
yeah, of course. Yeah, now where are you gonna go shop?
Walmart.
No, I guess Walmart's fine, isn't it?
It
Hmm.
depends. Some areas they actually
That
destroyed
spawned another.
Walmarts, so
Oh, okay, never
you
mind. I was
know.
gonna say that spawns another conspiracy theory. It's all set up by Big Walmart to take out their competition.
Right.
They burn a couple of their own stores to kind of like keep the trail off, keep the scent of their trail off. But it's really just them.
All right, and one other question for you, real quick. That was
Yeah,
the
I'll
second
share
one
it,
I
and
was
I'll put
going
it. I'll drop it in Discord later. I'll find it.
to. So, do you think that the George Floyd protest, um, like, did a premature start for some people to the boog, thinking that they should jump on the bandwagon and try and get some boog going on, and maybe this isn't necessarily going to turn into a boog situation?
I don't think it's going to. I think they pulled the trigger before they got to the starting line.
Some did, right?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, first of all, they're not organized in such a way that would lead to a successful boogaloo. Uh, they're too disparate. They're too decentralized. Too many people are on message.
Right.
They're not in it for revolution. They're in it to get the actual justice that they're looking for. Maybe some reform. Most of them are moderate to radical, but they're not set up in such a way that a revolution is possible.
So, so then here's a point to ponder, and maybe we could discuss this on a show. I don't know if you, hell, you might know somebody that would have an interesting take on this. But Does that mean that the true bug is damaged enough to where it won't happen, or will this one put us at a point where it can't happen? It's just a thought. How much
It
damage
depends on
it'll
who
do to
does
the
it,
real.
right? Because
Right.
this is like a left wing attempt at a boogaloo, as opposed to the actual term boogaloo refers to a
Right.
right wing revolution.
Sure, sure, but
Um,
a lot of right wing tried to hijack it and turn it into that. People were there for their own agendas, and like you said, some
sure,
pulled the trigger early on
yeah.
their, so that does beg the question. It's like, okay, how much damage was done to the actual boog necessity, the motivation behind it, or the justice behind it, because
Well,
now
that's
it'll
the
get wrapped in with some stupid shit.
right. Well, that's one of my favorite things is all the people screeching on Twitter like, "Oh, where are the the NRA members, or where are the the Second Amendment people?"
They were standing around at storefronts with guns.
Yeah, yeah, they were there. Like, what do you mean?
They
They
were
just weren't
there.
on your side. Sorry.
Yeah,
Like, what?
they were making sure there was a line you don't
They're
cross.
like, you understand that you guys are the ones who are being tyrannical, right? Like,
Right,
you are the ones that we are trying to not
right.
allow into
No, they don't.
power.
You
Like,
don't get that.
we
They
don't
don't get that.
agree on who the threat is, so why would we be on your side necessarily, right? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It's just kind of
But
funny.
it's a point to ponder for a later date. So bear
And
that in
then those,
mind
and
and
I
think about
actually
it.
tweeted, retweeted. Someone else said this, but I retweeted it earlier today. People are always like, "Oh, where are the libertarians on this? Why are the libertarians are suddenly so quiet right now?" And it was like, meanwhile, Joe Jorgensen, the current LP presidential candidate, went to a BLM rally. Um, was it Justin Amash introduced legislation to get rid of the what is it qualified immunity uh, thing, and then I forget who the other one was. Ah, fuck. But yeah, they were doing they've been doing all kinds of shit during these protests and
But is it
riots and
virtue
shit.
signaling? Is it
A lot of
pandering
it, a lot of it.
for votes?
I would say going to the BLM rally would be, yeah, because they're not interested in you. First of all, they're not interested in libertarians.
Well,
They're
that
way
but
too
that
authoritarian to want to be hanging
right.
out with
But that tells
libertarians.
me libertarians are starting to sell out to get on the political train.
Oh, the LP has been doing that for a while. That's nothing
Well,
new. That's
yeah,
not new.
but it's not
Yeah.
it's not what you want, right?
No, that's why I don't like the LP. Like,
Then change it, John. Don't you have a
that's what the well,
responsibility to change it if you want
yeah,
change to
absolutely.
happen?
That's what the Mises Caucus is trying to do.
No, that's them. What are you doing, John?
Of voting for local libertarians as a member of the Libertarian Party of Florida.
What else can you do, John?
That's about it. Vote locally.
I disagree. Maybe you could
Well,
motivate
you
other
disagree.
people, and you have channels of communication in which that can
What?
happen under the name of this show.
Crazy.
Could you tell
Then I
those?
guess I'll be
Could you
doing
tell the
that.
people what those are?
Ha! I like it. Yes, I can. If you look in our description down below, you'll find a link to our Twitter, which is at the GenGapP. You will find a link to our Discord server, which is super awesome and fun. Highly recommend it. And also a link to freedomscoop.com. You can go over there. You can see all of our stuff, as well as the stuff of other creators like J. Edgar, Stephen Ignoramus, Mr. RRC, the R-rated conservative, Wyatt from Roundtable Decision.
He said something mean to me.
Who would
Wyatt.
dare?
He said it right there when I was talking about the commercial. That's AT&T ad, boomer.
He didn't add a comma though, so you can make fun of him for his lack of grammar.
I can't.
Um, anyway, so the Freckles and Brit show. I almost forgot them because you distracted me, you fuck. Yeah, so go check all those people out over at freedomscoop.com. Links down below. You can also buy our merch while you're over there on freedomscoop.com. You can get our shirts and our mugs, which are pretty sweet. And then if you put in the code GenGap at checkout, you'll get 15% off of your purchase, which I think is pretty awesome. I mean, I'm a little biased, but I think that's kind of cool.
All right. So, hey, do me a favor for any of you still out there listening. And we've seen a few people like John was saying, I see Wyatt out there, Michael Vega Henry, all you guys showing up and talking to us tonight. If you have anything, anything that you think is of interest, talking about, the fall of the Boogaloo. Can I say that on air? Oh no.
You can say anything you want. We
Damn it.
might get taken down, but you can say it.
But anyway, touch base with John on it. He likes to gather information about that because he's highly curious. Look at that curiosity on his face.
Super curious.
Super.
I honestly don't know what you were talking about because I was looking. We had
Yeah,
a new subscriber. Yay!
yeah. That's why I'm wrapping the show up, John, because you're always distracted by porn.
I know I can't help it.
That was to your Pornhub account. You had the subscriber, right? But
Ah
anyway,
shit. Yeah, you're right.
yeah.
Fuck. Thought it was
But
YouTube.
thanks a
It
lot
was
for coming and
PornTube.
seeing us tonight, folks. We're going to be back again on Friday with our normal show at 8:30 p.m. and that's Eastern Standard Time, the only true time zone.
That's right.
And then we'll be back again, of course, next week on Monday at 9:30 for another rousing episode of Shooting the Shit. Um,
You sound roused right now.
roused,
Not
roused.
aroused, just roused.
Wow. Yeah, like a cat
Gee.
that's a bored lion. Wow.
Wow.
But no, I'm not bored. I'm really not. I was just using it as a reference.
I know. It's fine.
But
Calm down.
anyway,
God.
come and check us out again. Do me a favor, do John a favor. Please stay safe and healthy out there and crazy.
Yeah.
And, don't do anything that, well, just ask yourself, what would Jesus do? I mean, seriously, are
Ask
these
yourself,
folks
what
not
would
asking
John
themselves
do?
that?
Ask yourself, what would John
No,
do?
do not ask yourself that because you will make
John wouldn't do
very.
anything to put himself in danger. So
Hold on,
make sure
John.
you
I
ask
think
yourself
that
what John would
decision
do.
making is slightly askew depending on the amount of whiskey you've taken in, or scotch, or beer.
Um, I don't really. No, I don't think I've ever
Yeah,
put myself in any kind
yeah,
of real danger.
yeah, yeah. That whatever. You know what?
Yeah,
Don't. I know.
exactly. See
Don't.
WWJD. What would John do? See Sully Blue Nose.
You
Who
don't
knows?
understand.
Who knows?
It's we have to
See
we have to think
John.
about what would Jesus do at this point. That's what people need to ask themselves. And you need to ask yourself that same thing, John. What would Jesus do right now?
Probably get nailed to a cross.
He would ask for
I don't think I'm doing that.
he would
I don't
ask
think I'm going to do that.
he would ask for everybody to just calm down and get along. So let's do that. We're going to get the hell out of here. John, have yourself a great night. Thanks again, folks, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace out.
Yep. See you guys.
The war will begin.